3, 2, 1.
Dolls and donuts, dolls and donuts. We are two dolls, we like animals. As a bonus, we eat donuts.
Hello, and welcome to the Dolls and Donuts podcast, episode 2. Today we're going to chat about what's going on in the animal rights community, what's been happening at Robin's Vegan Dollhouse, and our very first interview with vegan author Erik Marcus. So we're back for episode 2.
And for those of you who listened to episode 1, you might have known that we weren't sure if this was going to become a thing. It was kind of a trial run, and
Hence the title, the pilot, just like an ETV show. They film the first episode and it goes out and people see what they think, and we got good feedback, so we're back for another episode.
We're really happy about the feedback. We got 2 comments on YouTube from Lizzie and Marvin, so thank you guys for listening and for commenting. And on iTunes, we got 3 reviews, and I just want to read them really quick and thank everyone. So from VXDeadXV,
That was well done. I was wondering how you were going to conquer that name.
we got very entertaining and informative. Hope you do more and more. So I wonder if episodes 2 and 3 count as more.
I was just going to say, we're giving you the first more right now. You should have put more, because then we committed to more episodes. 17 mores. Yeah.
And then we got Sweet Show by The Bounce. This was a great pilot episode. Open, honest, personal, and informative. I'd been looking for a vegan podcast to follow, since they tend to eventually fizzle out and stop updating. I really hope this one sticks around. So there's a challenge for us to not fizzle out.
Well, we're updating right now, so.
All right. And then the last one was Awesome by EC201743, which I believe is Elsa, our friend who lives in Tel Aviv. This was a great kickoff episode, just the right length with a nice mix of news and banter. Ashley and Robin have a great rapport and keep the episode running smoothly. There's a lot of potential. Keep it going, ladies.
Oh, shucks.
That's so encouraging.
Yes, thank you for taking the time to write and comment on iTunes or YouTube.
So, now it's time for our Ask Ashley segment. So, Ashley, what's been going on with the animals lately?
Okay, so I have 3 stories today. I'm not going to really spend as much time on them as we did last week, because these are a little more simple, I guess. They don't take as much time to explain all the backstory. Actually, picking the ag-gag bill being defeated last time was perfect, because we talked about like compassion over killing and mercy for animals and their undercover investigations. Well, here's the next release of their footage. So they've released an undercover video at one of the nation's largest pork producers. It's Quality Pork Producers. It's a supplier of Hormel Foods, the maker of Spam and other processed meats. So they have an investigator that is still working there. The person didn't leave when this is released, so someone's still there. So I feel sorry for that person, because everyone there now is going to be under a microscope since this has come out, because they're still working there, which is kind of scary. So they've released a 97-minute unedited video, and they gave it to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and they put an edited one on YouTube. So I'm sure if you go under Compassion Over Killing, their YouTube channel, you can watch it. I haven't watched it, but I've read articles on it. And most of the headlines are disturbing, all these other words that are like that, where everyone that's watched it and these journalists that have written articles on it are really disturbed by it. So this is why we can't have ag-gag bills, because stuff like this doesn't get released. Because the USDA, has their inspectors go into these facilities and check to make sure, sanitary laws are being, upheld. The Humane Slaughter Act, whatever, it's the Humane Slaughter Act, but they're making sure that that's being upheld. But, if someone's not looking over your shoulder, you don't really care as much, right?
Ashley, I want you to know that if I ever have to slaughter you, I will do it humanely.
Thank you. That's nice to know. I will come to you if I ever need to be slaughtered. So the title of the Washington Post article is "That One Was Definitely Alive," an undercover video at one of the nation's biggest pork producers. So that is a quote, that one is definitely alive. So that's what one of the workers say in the video when they are putting the pig through slaughter, and they're saying, well, that one was definitely alive. It says that the video shows pigs being dragged across the floor, beaten with paddles, and sick to the point of immobility. And it says that by laws, pigs are supposed to be rendered unconscious before being killed. The many are shown withering in apparent pain while bleeding out, suggesting that they weren't properly stunned. So, they're conscious when a lot of this is actually happening, even though they're not supposed to be. A lot of the workers are saying some really damning things while they're working in this video. As I said before, they said that one was definitely alive. And another quote is, if the USDA is around, they could shut us down. A worker says, who's standing over the production line in the video. Okay, so with the workers saying these quotes when they're being filmed, it's a lot harder for the company. So in this case, quality pork producers to say that, this has been edited or falsified, this footage, to look like something's happening that would never happen at our facility. Even though they are saying that, they don't really believe that, it's a genuine account of how the animals are treated in their facility. Of course, they're saying that. But with these quotes, these stand out. That the workers are saying these while they're being filmed, and that's a kind of a whole new level of these investigations. And the USDA released a quote saying the actions depicted in the video under review are appalling and completely unacceptable, and if we can verify the video's authenticity, we will aggressively investigate the case and take appropriate action. So thanks to this investigation into compassion over killing, they're actually going to look into this, even though, the USDA has their own investigators that go in to these facilities and supposed to check them out anyway. So they had to have compassion over killing hand over this stuff.
So when they have investigators that go in, are they scheduled? Do they know they're coming, or is it a surprise?
I think it's scheduled.
See, that's not fair.
Yeah, so it's okay, the teacher's coming, everybody behave.
Exactly.
It's that kind of mentality, and, even you have workers being quoted, if the USDA is around, they could shut us down. And the article also notes a few reports on the facility, and it says in a 2013 report by the U.S. Government Accountability Office cited concerns that plant personnel were not properly trained, and that faster line speeds were increasing the risk of food and worker safety issues. And another investigation that same year said that the USDA inspectors felt that participants were prioritizing maintaining faster speed lines over safety checks, which we've heard a lot of. It's always about getting more animals through the line. When you're working at that speed, things are going to start falling off the radar. And worker safety, the animal welfare, all of that, it just goes by the wayside because they're trying to put so many animals through at a time. And it says that there at QPP, the line speeds approach 1,300 hogs per hour. It's some of the fastest in the industry. So, that's 1,300 animals per hour. So there's no way you can keep up any kind of standard, as much as we wouldn't agree with any standard, but still, you can't keep up any standard at that speed. The compassion over killing employee said that everyone is just trying to keep up with the speed at which we're expect to work at, and the management is constantly pushing as many hogs through as possible. So it kind of just iterated what I said, that they can't keep up with it. So when stuff like that happens, when they put profit over safety and everything, videos like this come out. So hopefully the USDA will shut them down, and that whoever they supply will start dropping them, which has happened in the past. So that's that story. That's the sad story of the episode. So the next story I have is that a former McDonald's CEO is teaming up with a vegan company. So Don Thomas, the Tech Insider says, ex-McDonald's CEO, will join Beyond Meat as a part of their board of directors. So I thought this was interesting because while he worked in corporate McDonald's for 25 years, and he was CEO for just the last 3. And now he is on the board of directors of Beyond Meat, but he still consults for McDonald's. So when I read that he still consults for McDonald's, I was like, do you have a mole here or something? I feel
Yeah, that's what I was just wondering too.
I don't know. I don't want to be that pessimistic and
I'm sure
paranoid, but it
happens, right?
Maybe, I'm not sure, but if it's genuine, I'm glad, because obviously McDonald's has marketed a lot of people into eating their shitty food, their horrible food. So if you can only use that marketing for good for Beyond Meat, then I think that's a good thing.
But why Beyond Meat would think to hire him?
Well, because of that, he has expertise in marketing burgers to 69 million people.
Are they going to be opening fast food joints?
Well, it's just marketing. Like, it's just it's getting people to the restaurant or getting people to the supermarket to buy your stuff. It's just getting them to a point where they're buying new stuff, no matter where it comes from. But McDonald's is as far as food advertising, McDonald's is best as you can get. Fortunately, it's just unfortunate is what they're selling.
The irony is that at the Natural Foods Expo West, Beyond Meat had their booth set up to look like a McDonald's.
That's probably not a coincidence. Yeah, that's probably not a coincidence then. Yeah, and as I said about him still consulting for McDonald's, it says he retired as CEO in March, but he still consults for the company and earns $3.3 million a year. So if somebody's still lining your pockets, I'm sure you have some responsibility to them still. So, hopefully it's genuine and he uses his marketing powers for good.
Can you even imagine what that dude's income was before? He was
It says he's not the CEO. He's not with McDonald's anymore, and he's apparently earning $3.3 million.
That's insane.
So that's a pretty good retirement package. Okay, so the best story, the latest story that we have is that Moby, who's the musical artiste, is a loud and proud vegan. And he's always going on about, his beliefs, and he's really putting it out there, and he does a lot for animals. So he is opening his new vegan restaurant on November 19th. So by the time you're listening to this, it will already be open. Why aren't you there? So it's called Little Pine, and he's not new to this. Like 10 years ago, he had at least partnership in a vegan place in New York, and he left eventually. So he's getting back into it now. And they're going to have featured food items as farro walnut salad with pomegranate, Mediterranean salads, olives and avocado, meatballs and polenta, and stuffed shells, which is one of his favorites apparently. So they're going to have a lot of different stuff. And I can't wait to try it next time I'm in LA.
I think we should plan a road trip just for that, actually.
Yeah, it's like any new place. And it's open 7 days a week, 7:30 to midnight. So it's anytime you're hungry. Unless it's really middle of the night, then you can go there and eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Nice.
That should just be the day. You go, have breakfast, go do something else, come back for lunch, go do something else, come back for dinner. You should have the whole Moby vegan food experience.
Well, it's in Silver Lake. There's tons of stuff to do there.
Yeah, and there's tons of other vegan food in Silver Lake, too. It's going to be right at home. So I'm excited to try that, and I think it's always good for a new vegan place to open, especially when it has a name behind it, because then it has a better chance of staying open. That was just kind of a quick overview of what's happening in the animal rights community, and you should go out and support Moby's new restaurant, Little Pine. Okay, so let's talk about some vegan food. What's happening in the Dollhouse, Robin?
So the Dollhouse has not been cooking a ton lately.
I think you said that last time, too. Are we ever going to get some Dollhouse food?
Maybe not.
No, it's okay.
I mean, I need children to control the dolls so that the dolls will cook.
Yeah.
They just sit around and they're just lazy. So the last thing I made was a couple days ago, and it was Follow Your Heart egg, which by the time this podcast comes out, everyone will have made it because it'll be sold on Amazon in 1 week from now, which is, what is today? I don't even know.
16th of November.
So right around
Thanksgiving. Right before Thanksgiving. Pretty much.
Follow Your Heart will be on Amazon, and it's already being rolled out to vegan stores in each city. So the vegan store that we have in the Bay Area is Republic of V/Vegan Republic, and they're getting it this week. So if you haven't purchased it and you want to try,
run, don't walk.
Vegan
to your
eggs.
local vegan store to get it.
Check it out. I got a package for $5. It was what's considered a dozen eggs, the equivalent to a dozen eggs, which it's a powder. It's the main ingredient is an algae that I hadn't heard of. And then today we were at Grocery Outlet and I saw one of the Earth Balances that I don't ever get, the one with the green color. I always buy the organic one.
It said omega-3 on
the omega-3 one. Had the same algae in it. So it's something that's been out that companies have been using as an ingredient. I just haven't heard of it. So it's the main ingredient in the Follow Your Heart egg. It looks very similar to eggs as it's scrambling. When I first opened the package, it just smelled like flour. It was like a powder. But then the second it hit water, it smelled so strongly of eggs, like that sulfury, eggy smell.
I just had like a little image of you making it, and then like a hand made of egg came up and slapped you in the face with the egg smell. Kind of like, I liken it to like when there's a cartoon pie on the windowsill and like the steam like lures someone in, like come over here, and they float over to that's what I felt like.
Yeah, it's
but
the opposite of that.
But it smacked you because you didn't really like the smell.
Yeah, it did smack me. So yeah, I continued to cook it. You cook it for like 8 minutes or something like that. Basically till all the liquid has evaporated and it's dry enough that it looks like the consistency of scrambled eggs.
It really did look like eggs.
Yeah. So
in a scary way.
Yeah. If you haven't already seen people scramble this and you're interested, you can go to my Catch account and watch the video. It's not really that interesting. And it tasted very much like eggs to me. But this is somebody who hasn't had eggs in 16 years. So take that with a grain of salt.
I think that might be an issue for people.
A grain of black salt. Yeah.
I think that might be an issue because while a lot of these companies are trying to get their products more like the animal-based, like in texture and taste, some people don't want that. They don't want that. They want something that's like familiar and similar. Mm-hmm. They don't want the exact same thing. Because I can relate because I can't really eat beef, like fake beef. Mm-hmm. For some reason, it just is too real. It's too close for me. Like, any of the chickens, the turkeys, like any of that foamy, like it's fine. But with beef, it's just too close to home for some reason. So I could see as someone that could be freaked out by the taste of these eggs. Yeah. Potentially.
So I guess, I haven't seen anybody bake with it. I haven't seen anybody make a souffle or the things that are a little bit more difficult for vegans to make. However, I think it's great for omelets. If somebody misses omelets, because I've tried to make vegan omelets before and they break every time.
Yeah, I feel like tofu, because my eggs, quote, are like tofu scrambled. Mm-hmm. That's how I eat it. Yeah. And that'd be impossible to make that'd be a tofu, like, omelet.
Yeah,
like,
there's
fold
quite
it over.
a few
that would be really hard.
Recipes. So I have that cookbook over there, the vegan brunch one. I can't remember who writes it, but there's quite a few recipes for vegan omelets, and people are doing it successfully, but it's not easy for me.
Oh. I feel like it wouldn't be easy.
It's not.
Especially if you like want it folded over, which is how they're supposed to look, right?
Yeah, yes.
Like, I feel like you just crumble everywhere.
They're just not be broken and looking like 10 pieces.
It just looks like you just put it all on one side. Exactly the same.
So for people who want to make a pretty omelet and take a picture of it and put it on their Instagram, then I think this is a good product.
Yeah, you should, if you try it and it turns out well, you should mention us on your Instagram so we can see what it looks like.
Oh, yes, please do. And then also, I feel like it would be good for somebody who's trying to convert someone or wean them off of eggs. I think it would be good for that.
Could be a good gateway product. Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah.
For people that are already like, ugh, eggs, I think that'd be a problem. But if you're always like, I really love eggs, but I don't want to eat an actual egg, mm-hmm. that could be its little niche. Yeah. I think so.
And this also has a good tie-in with our interview that'll be coming up later that people will be able to understand why it's important that we get people to give up eggs.
Eggs in particular.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's. I'm just gonna mention that as the thing I've been cooking. And if you want to know more,
you cooked it. You add water. You added water to it, and you put it in the pan.
Yeah.
And you looked at it and pushed it around, and then you ate it, and that's what cooking is.
So
you poked at it for a little bit.
I ate a lot of really good food that I'm going to talk about for a second. When I was in Japan last month, I'm going to mention 3 places I went only, but if you're interested in seeing all the places that I went, you can go to my blog posts at vegandollhouse.com and see all the places that I ate at while I was in Japan. But in Kyoto, my favorite restaurant was Prunus. It was very centrally located if you're going for a walk in the bamboo forest or if you're going to see the monkeys. Prunus, it wasn't even on Yelp. I added them to Yelp, but I found them on Happy Cow. The woman who owns it was really awesome. Everything we ordered was delicious. It came out so a little bit sort of bento style, like a lot of the places in Japan, But the mock meat was amazing. And I'm like Ashley, where I'm a little bit particular about mock meat. So that was really, really lovely.
Yeah, not to have some kind of like weird looking thing.
Yeah, it was really delicious.
I don't know about this.
So that was my favorite place in Kyoto. My favorite place in Osaka was called Paprika. Okay, so one of the things I liked about Paprika was that the server brought out charcuterie, which is like a little sample of some of the things that they offer on their menu. And I thought that was the cutest thing ever. And so I got to taste some of the things that I didn't order.
More places should do that.
Right?
Yeah, it's just like, it's like a beer flight, which I don't drink, but, you know, you get a little test, like a little sample of everything.
It was really lovely. And everything about that place was delicious. The ice cream was delicious. I don't know. I mean, I should know, but I don't.
I just ate it. I didn't really look at it.
From the charcuterie, I got this like soy meat, which I would have ordered a whole plate of it if I had known that I would have liked it that much. But because I err on the side of caution with soy meats,
yeah, especially in like Asia.
Yeah, so I ended up going with something safe, like a risotto, I think.
Yeah.
But if I would have been able to sample it before I ordered,
that's how they get you. Sure. They bring out that sample plate, and you got them. They're gonna order everything on the sample plate.
Yeah, I would have ordered again.
Yeah. Until they get you.
And if I had been in Osaka for more than a day, I would have gone back there for sure, just to have that.
Yeah, that happened to us when we were in Amsterdam. Because we went to Olive and Cookie, this tiny little place, and really cute name. Everything's out in a like display case in the front, and they do everything by weight, and then they like heat everything up for you again because it's warm, but they give it to you hot. And it was very simple food, but it was amazing. And you know, we had a lot of restaurants to go to, but we went there back before we left. It was so good.
I like it when something's so good that you go back.
Yeah, especially when you're somewhere new and you have so many options, so many places you want to see.
Yeah.
By see, I mean eat at.
Taste.
Why
By
else
see,
would
she
you
means see with her tongue.
Yeah, like why else would you go on vacation, right? See the world? No, just try all the food, right? All the vegan food.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like, you know that's a good place when you go back twice and you're on vacation. Because your time, your meals, you only have so many meals to like, you know, try different stuff. So.
Yeah, I know. So none of these places that I'm mentioning I got to go back to twice. I would have. But I wasn't able to. So in Tokyo, I'm going to just mention two because I was in Tokyo the most time. So Rainbow Bird Rendezvous was a lot more traditional, I felt like, but not too traditional because I did go to a place that was too traditional.
The name of the restaurant is Rainbow Bird Rendezvous?
Yeah.
That's great.
And everything there was really good. The ice cream there was so good. One of the things I really liked about Tokyo is that they put cereal in the ice cream, just a little bit, like under it. To surprise you.
For some reason, like, that never occurred to me, but it makes perfect sense.
It's so good. I've been doing it since I got home. I highly recommend it.
I'll give you that crunch.
So Rainbow Bird was the first place that we had the cereal in the ice cream, and it was like,
Does it get soggy, though? I hate soggy cereal.
No, everyone hates soggy
I would
cereal.
throw up.
It definitely did not get soggy.
Got soggy in ice cream.
I mean, maybe you take too long to eat your ice cream. Have you ever thought of that?
I don't think that's true because it's like
I wolf my ice cream.
Like somebody will give it to me, they turn around and get their plate, and they come back and the bowl's empty, and I have ice cream on my face. And it's like, what happened? I just eaten my ice cream. It's gone. Have some more. So I don't think that's never been an issue with me.
Okay, me too. Every once in a while, when I'm eating chocolate, I'll find like chocolate on my forehead, and I'm like, how did that even?
I'd be like, damn it! I wasted that chocolate. I can't eat it if it's on my forehead.
So Rainbow Bird Rendezvous for sure. And actually, so Tea's Tauntaun, I did go back like 3 times. So the reason that Tea's Tauntaun was so good is, number one, it was the most affordable place that I ate out in Tokyo. Tokyo's kind of an expensive city, so it was like the one place that you could get a huge bowl of ramen for like $8 or like $7 something. And really, with the exchange rate, it's like less than that.
It's like 4 cents.
Yeah, it's like so it's like 700 and something, or 7,000. Wait, 700 yen.
It probably was 1,000. I think it's really like
the yen. So it's almost like $1 to 100 yen,
or something like that. I don't know.
So if it was like 700 and something yen,
their currencies over there are always like super high, like 20,000 yen for like this nail polish or something. Like I'm like, oh my god, it's like 6 cents or something.
Yeah. So Tease Tauntaun was really good, and I became the mayor on Yelp, which was really exciting.
Oh, I used to do
or
that.
Or is it the mayor or Duchess? I was thinking the Duchess.
Okay, because the mayor used to be Foursquare.
Yes, you're right.
And when I used to be into that, I'm like, I'm the mayor. And then somebody would steal it, and I'm like, I'm going. I gotta go back. I gotta go back.
I'm sure I'm not the Duchess anymore.
To get the mail. The mail. I gotta go back to get the mayorship. And the mail.
And your crown. This
has been a long day. I'm not on top of my game today, obviously.
Yeah, so this doesn't have anything to do with the Dollhouse Kitchen, but I did go to Okinoshima. So I first heard about Okinoshima from Vegan in Brighton because she went there and it looked amazing. And so I knew I was planning a trip to Japan, so I just tacked that onto my trip. So I have to thank her for that. It's basically an island full of bunnies. It used to be that the bunnies were tested on. And when they shut down the facilities, they just set all the bunnies free. And everyone left, so no one lived on the island, and it was just bunnies. And then since it was government-owned property, it just turned into a preserve, basically.
I did not know that was the backstory.
Yeah.
I know you were there, and I was just distracted by the bunnies. I never thought to
think,
why are all these bunnies on this island? It's Bunny Island. I didn't think to ask any questions. It was just stupid. That's what you should ask questions like that.
So there's all these
sad.
wild bunnies, and the population doesn't get too out of control because they do have predators. There's crows on the island as well that try to swoop away with the babies.
Picture like you're on like not the island and you're looking over and all these rafts of bunnies, like they have like canoes and like these like home, like tires tied together and they're on it like trying because there's too many of them. So like refugees are all trying to get onto different. There's so many of us. There's so many bunnies. So not that I'm happy that the little babies get catered by crows, but I could see how that could get out of control.
Yeah. So when I went there, I definitely packed a lot of vegan food to bring with me because I assumed there would be no food there that I could eat. But actually, the buffet that's provided by the hotel for dinner and breakfast, there was so many vegan options.
Really?
It was really nice.
That's good.
So I highly recommend this as a vacation destination for all vegans and all bunny lovers.
Yeah, I definitely would be nervous about going to Asia as far as like diet is concerned.
Yeah.
But
so if anyone's planning a trip to Japan and you'd like to see what all the places that I ate to get some ideas, you can check that out on my blog.
So now we're very excited to share with you our first interview of the podcast. Our interview was with Erik Marcus, who is a vegan author and the man behind vegan.com. And as a special bonus for all of you, this interview includes a brand new segment on the podcast called Relationship Advice with Robin and Ashley, where we try to dissect the reason why Erik is currently single and is, continues to stay single. So you can enjoy that as well. But we'd like to say thanks again to Erik for coming on the show and being our first interview.
So we're here today with Erik Marcus of vegan.com. And we're going to ask him questions about his personal life. Very personal questions about your personal life.
Well, this is exactly why I came onto this show.
Throw all the serious questions out the window. Yeah.
Yeah, all anyone listening to this would possibly care about is my personal life. So yeah, let's get into it.
I mean, speaking of which, didn't you say you came across a Wikipedia page?
Yeah, I read your Wikipedia page.
Oh,
Did you
God.
know that you're single?
Is that true?
Yeah. But it said I've been single for the last 10 years or whatever, and I haven't been single for all of that time. So
you need to make sure it gets updated and then updated and then.
I realized recently that in my last relationship that went on 6 months, I never updated my Facebook status, but then I reverted back to singlehood, so I guess it didn't matter. But yeah, I felt badly that I had omitted to, make things Facebook official. But
do you think it was that Facebook official omission that actually sabotaged the relationship?
Doomed from the start.
No, it had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. This was star-crossed from the beginning, and Facebook could not have helped.
Could have hurt, though.
Well, things can always hurt. Things can always hurt. But,
so how did you get involved in the animal rights community?
well, I actually the the origin of that was a couple of things. I was a big time meat eater growing up. I probably ate it with every meal, and at the same time, I definitely cared about animals, but I just sort of thought that you needed meat to be healthy, and that's all there was to it, and you just had to assume that the people producing this meat were treating the animals with a decent level of care, and how bad could it really be? And then in my freshman year of college, I saw some footage from the first Faces of Death. I walked into a neighboring room, dorm room, and when the people had this really grisly movie on, and it had a little bit of footage taken from inside a slaughterhouse. And, it was like for the first time I had a very, very clear understanding of where my meat was coming from, and it was just appalling to think that that was the case. But at the time I was, 19 years old and a freshman in college, and I went the rest of the term continuing to eat meat because I didn't know that really vegetarianism was an option. Now, I think it may partly excuse me that this was all the way back in 1986 or whatever.
Oh, and I was born.
Yeah.
Let's drop that in there.
Thank you. So always nice to talk to somebody who's been married for quite a while, who was born the year I was born. That's a delight. But anyway, so that was like one of the two shoes to drop. Seeing this footage, and the other shoe to drop was about 6 or 8 months later. One of my favorite bands growing up, Boston, came out with a third album, and the liner notes said that most of the people with the band were vegetarian, and if you wanted more information, you could write to this address, which at the time was one of the big animal rights groups. It was then named Farmed Animal Reform Movement. And so I sent them a little letter and got back a little brochure on how to go vegetarian. But to back up just a little bit, I remember sitting at a dining room table holding the liner notes from Boston's third album, which I just bought, and reading that the people with the band were vegetarian. And I was like, oh, crap. Because now I don't have any excuse. It's like I know it can be done. And at the time, my diet was just appalling. I mean, I grew up on TV dinners and Hot Pockets, and just my idea of eating a variety of food was a ham and cheese sandwich for lunch and a steak and cheese sandwich for dinner. I mean, it was all on white bread and just loads of meat, loads of cheese, and I did not really have what I now consider to be sort of a vocabulary of food. I just ate really the most simplistic foods imaginable, and so it was really not terrifying, but it was definitely disconcerting to be sitting there with these liner notes from from this Boston album, just realizing that, hey, if I write to this address, it's basically going to be game over. I'm going to have to go vegetarian, and I know it's going to suck. And so anyway, but I think that's a pretty common feeling that most new vegetarians, most new vegans have. You'll always think it's going to be so much harder than it turns out to be. And and I think like what I ended up writing a book called The Ultimate Vegan Guide about 7 years ago, and I think one of the most useful pieces of advice that I wish I could have gone back in time to tell myself is that, like, the key to making an effortless, easy, sustainable transition to a vegan diet is to focus on crowding out animal foods, not cutting them out. Like, just make a point of trying, if you just try 1 or 2 new vegan foods every day, you're not going to like every single thing, but 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week, you'll find something you'll want to eat again. And every time you discover something that's vegan that you would want to eat again, it will crowd some of the animal products out of your diet. And so doing it that way, when you crowd rather than cut, you're not focusing on sacrifice, you're not focusing on deprivation, you're just focused on exploring new foods and enjoying yourself. And I think when you have that focus, things go remarkably quickly in a transition to an easy, sustainable, healthful vegan diet.
Yeah, when people focus on what they're gaining instead of what they're losing, because I feel like, oh, I'm not going to have cheese, I'm not going to have this. But when you're saying about everything else other foods that you're discovering, like I didn't eat half the foods I eat now when I wasn't vegan. You discover all these new things.
Oh, for sure. I can look back and say that my diet as a non-vegetarian was extraordinarily limited and boring.
Mine too.
Compared to the diet I ended up with as a vegan. Now, I did go through sort of the doorway of going from a junk food meat eater to being a junk food vegetarian.
Yeah.
And, I think one of the things about that is, it's a process. People don't realize that making this kind of switch, I gotta say, 25 plus years on, my diet is still getting a little bit better every year. I can't remember the last time I bought a bag of potato chips now. Every year, I kind of just gradually increase the ratio of healthy foods in my diet compared to crap. And, I'm at a point now where most of what I eat is fairly healthy stuff. I think, Michael Pollan is kind of widely hated among vegans because he shows nothing but disdain for the vegan community. But the guy has done a lot of good in the world, and he's gotten people towards to embrace diets that are mostly plants. That's his big maxim. But he's been a really, I think for the most part, a popularizer of sensible eating. And his food rules book has a great rule in it. If it's white, don't bite. If it stay away from white powders like heroin, cocaine, white flour, white rice. If it's a white powdery thing, it's been pretty heavily refined, and it's not going to have any kind of nutritional value, and it's probably going to be the kind of food that will spike your blood sugar levels, not give you any fiber, and just generally mess with you any number of ways. Stay away from refined stuff. And I think that's a real sensible rule, whether you're vegan or even pretty far down the omnivore spectrum.
Any diet you have.
Sure.
Is this just you trying to make me feel guilty for feeding you that donut a second ago?
Oh, I really
You have to try very hard.
Yeah, no, I swooped on that, but it doesn't happen very often, and I do it unapologetically. But you know what? I sure don't like donuts the way I used to. I'll eat them once in a while, but they don't make my heart skip a beat.
Your
that's for sure.
tastes change, I feel, even though some of them change the other way. Because I never liked donuts before I went vegan, and now I love donuts. I don't know what that's about.
I think if you visited me more, then we could keep your junk food consumption at a higher level, and you would really be appreciating the junk food more.
Or if I just had it...
So he said stay away, far away.
Yeah. if I had it injected as an IV, I suppose that would be the same thing.
In between visits.
We could make donut IVs.
So how did you go from just, becoming vegan, knowing you didn't want to consume any animal products, to writing books on the subject?
Well, I this was happening in the late 80s, and I felt like a lot of the literature I was finding, I think, we're all born with, certain proclivities and abilities. And I like to think that, I was a writer, and, there's a great Hemingway quote about writing, that a good writer needs a functional, working bullshit detector. You look at your work and you just sniff out what's wrong with it and you correct it. And I think that, when I was reading a lot of the vegan literature, whether it was books or magazines, there was stuff that was triggering my bullshit detector. There was stuff that was just making me feel like, is this really correct? Are vegans, heart attack proof, does it really take this much water to make a pound of beef? There were just a lot of things about what I was finding that I probably I had some real misgivings about. And so this was still really early on in the vegan era, and I just felt like the movement needed a book that was done with really good faith, with an intention to get things more or less correct. And so I guess in the mid-90s, I started writing this book, and it came out in 96 or 97. It was called Vegan: The New Ethics of Eating. And it did really, really well. And, later on, after having sat with what I wrote for several years and thinking more carefully about it, I wrote a much more rigorous book that just got into some really difficult questions and just took a much closer look at animal agribusiness. And that was my book, Meat Market, which came out in 2005. And I think that's always going to be my magnum opus, if for no other reason than I don't ever intend to write another book.
One thing I have Meat Market. I got it at the bake sale, but it's been sitting on my shelf since then, and I just still cracked it open over the weekend. One thing I found interesting, though, that you said was that you thought the egg industry was the worst out of all the animal industries. And you described kind of going through the facilities. What was that like? And what makes you think that eggs are the worst for the animals?
Well, one of the phrases, I think I used the phrase misery per mouthful in Meat Market, and if I didn't, I should have. Misery per mouthful is a really good metric of figuring out how screwed up a given animal product is. And if you look at, a lot of newbie vegan advocates, they'll just dismissively say, well, they're all equally terrible. But they're not. It's like, if you actually give this some thought, this is an important question. And for people who aren't willing to go vegan today, well, a metric like misery per mouthful becomes a very useful thing. And, I'd love to wave my, abolitionist magic wand and get the entire world to go vegan overnight. But that ain't going to happen. So, for people who are, who aren't ready.
One change that they can make, a small.
Yeah.
One little, just eggs.
Lots of people have ruled out going all the way this week, but they're willing to make a smaller change. So focusing on something like misery per mouthful is a pretty big and pretty sensible thing to do. And, I definitely think that, that battery cage eggs are essentially the H-bomb of animal misery. I think that there's probably even more misery per mouthful in a battery cage egg than there is in a fork full of veal. And the reason I feel that way is that even with the ultra productive hens that they use, the white leghorns they use in battery cages in the United States, super productive breeds, they lay on average one egg per 30 hours. If you look at it across their entire lifetimes. So what that means is if those hens are unfortunate enough to be in a battery cage, they are standing on wire or sleeping pressed against wire, 6 to a cage, for 30 hours. to lay something that you could eat in 3 or
Under a
4
minute.
easy bites.
Yeah, under a minute you can
You know,
down an egg.
the misery per mouthful, you're talking about hours of misery per mouthful. No question about it. Plus, these hens are invariably slaughtered before they've reached even half their typical life expectancy. So I think it's important that, that as vegans, as advocates, as people who want to make the greatest possible difference, that we stay connected to reality. And the reality is that the overwhelming majority of people we speak to are not willing to go vegan tomorrow, but they're willing to make a step towards it in the right direction. And if you focus on misery per mouthful, then that step can be really based on something that accomplishes as much as possible with the least amount of sacrifice. And Cooney talks about foot in the door, that by getting you tomorrow to quit battery cage eggs, even if that's all you're willing to do, you're going to eat cage free from now on. Now we've got a foot on the door, and maybe next week, maybe next month, you'll get rid of eggs entirely. Nick Cooney's Change of Heart, by the way, is just a marvelous book for new activists to really take things to the next level. I think one of the things that people go wrong with in the vegan movement is that they assume that just because you care a lot, just because you're passionate about being vegan, just because it's so obvious to you that this is the way to go, that doesn't mean you know jack about being an effective activist. And a little bit of reading can take you a long way. And Matt Ball and Bruce Friedrich wrote a great book called The Animal Activist's Handbook, and that's a really nice way to learn the real basics. My book, Meat Market, the second half of it is devoted to activism. There's a guy named Ben Davidow who wrote a book called Uncaged, which is, again, pretty elementary but very important to activist thinking. And Nick Cooney's Change of Heart is to me like if the books I just talked about were kind of elementary school treatments to kind of get you thinking, Nick Cooney's Change of Heart is more like a college level stuff that has much more advanced thinking behind it. So I think that if you want to save a whole bunch of animals, doing a little reading on activism up front can really pay off. Makes me want to just really quickly mention a concept I came up with, I think, when I was writing Meat Market. I think it's in Meat Market. I don't reread my books, and it's been 10 years. But when I was in high school, I before I got onto the animal rights train, I just didn't really have any sort of deep social conscience about issues, and I just wanted to make a lot of money. I wanted to be a millionaire. And then once I started seeing what happened to farmed animals, my priorities shifted. And it was around this time that I thought, well, but there's something still cool about being a millionaire, but maybe I can change the unit of measurement from making $1 million to saving 1 million animals. And I think that if you really want to aspire to be an animal millionaire, you absolutely can make that happen. You absolutely can do it. It takes a little bit of reading, it takes some hard work, but we live in a culture where 9 billion farmed animals a year are getting their throats cut. So if you can just nudge this horrible ship over just 1/10 of 1 degree, you're talking tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of animals. It's really not that hard to save enormous amounts of animals. I think probably the best starting point is to do leafleting. Vegan Outreach offers these leaflets, and you can pass out 100 an hour on a busy college campus. And I've done that lots of times. And you pass them out and you see people sitting with them and reading them. And, it's obvious they're not all going in the trash can. And,
even if you get one person out of the 100 to look at it seriously and just think, then that's a success to me.
Oh, for sure. If you get a foot in the door with one person out of 100, that's, you can, in that 1 hour spent at your local college, you could save vastly more animals than you will save by being vegan for the rest of your life. So, yeah, for sure, activism and being effective as an activist has the potential to save, 10, 100, 1,000 times more animals than you'll ever save through your own personal food choices, which is why it's really important to just get past this narcissistic thing of worrying about your 18th bagel ingredient or whatever. It becomes like, how can we get out there and reach as many people as impactfully as possible? And, taking the focus off of yourself, off of your own personal identity as, a vegan, and worrying about all the other animals that are getting eaten by these people who aren't vegan and have no intention of becoming vegan anytime soon.
Also, a lot of people feel like vegans anyway. I don't know if we could say activists, but I would say vegans. I feel that showing omnivores, taking them out to vegan restaurants and vegan food in general is one of the biggest ways they can expose people to veganism as a viable way to live. Do you agree with that, or do you think that's not really the way to go?
For sure. I mean, I think
what's effective anyway.
I think that one of the most overlooked routes to talking about dietary issues and animal advocacy is a lot of vegans just don't get it, that at this point our food is just so amazingly good. I mean, it ain't like it used to be in the 80s where you'd buy this, $6 piece of vinyl-like cheese, and you'd cut off this thing and put it on some bread and put it in the microwave oven, and it would be spinning for about 5 minutes and nothing would be happening. It would just, that little block of cheese that you just, it'd start glowing red and perspiring, but it wasn't melting. And, I mean, the food until the last 5 or 10 years ago in the vegan lifestyle was pretty appalling a lot of the time, especially the convenience foods. But, with the rise of companies like Hampton Creek and Beyond Meat and Gardein, it's like, it's like comparing microcomputers to vacuum tubes. I mean, things have come a long way in research and development for some of these food products. And basically we're at the point now where anybody who brings a vegan food to market right now that's not great, if the food isn't great, it's going to fail. And same goes with cookbooks. There used to be a lot of crappy vegan cookbooks, and good luck, coming out with a crappy cookbook today and having it sell in any numbers, because the competition is just
there's competition
really
now.
There.
Yeah.
Finally.
Any bad vegan cookbooks you can remember, Robin? Since you're the chef at the table.
I don't like cookbooks without pictures on every page.
Oh.
I want to see what my food is supposed to look like when I'm done making it.
So I feel it's better without the picture, because then I just don't get let down every time I make something. It's edible, but I didn't have to compare it to this beautiful, laid out masterpiece. It looks okay. It looks okay. It tastes good. So
if your food doesn't look
success.
like a beautiful masterpiece, throw it away. Really.
Throw it in the trash.
or just eat blindfolded. I guess that's
also another option. I feel like Veggie Girl has come a long way, helping people eat vegan food. Because I have people, coworkers that will come to me and be like, "Have you heard of this place called Veggie Grill?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's amazing." And they're meat eaters, and now they go all the time. They're like, "Do you want to go to Veggie Grill? Do you want to go to Veggie Grill?" All the time. It's
vegan cupcakes is a good way, because they don't taste any different than regular cupcakes.
It tastes better.
It's the best way to convince people that vegan food can be good.
Yeah, and so I take every omnivore couple that Matt and I are friends with. We have to take them to Veggie Grill, we take them wherever to get vegan food.
Yeah, getting people to just realize that vegan food can be just some of the best food you'll ever eat is just key. I mean, I mean that's why I don't know. My suspicion is that Unilever is having the FDA do its dirty work with the Hampton Creek thing because the fact is that just mayo tastes like nobody's going to be able to tell any difference at all except the chickens who aren't being just completely...
Wait, we didn't have any part in this. Oh, yeah. I was going to bring it up when you mentioned Hampton Creek. So Hampton Creek makes just mayo, which I'm sure you're aware of. Yeah.
It's my new
so the
favorite.
FDA is coming after them saying that they can't use the phrase mayo because there's no egg ingredient in it.
That was a while ago.
And, well, it's happening
It's
now.
still going on.
And recently they came out, somebody, found these emails where the president of the egg board or something was saying that Hampton Creek or just mayo is a serious threat to the egg industry, or them as a company is a serious threat, so that the FDA may need to be pushed, whatever that means. The FDA may need to be pushed towards doing something about Hampton Creek and just mayo. So it woo, big surprise, the egg industry is behind this, big shocker there. But
because Hampton Creek's other product is a fake egg, right? That was how they started. Before they came out with the Just Mayo, I heard about them originally because they were supposed to be coming up with some...
The mayo?
Yeah,
the egg.
Hampton Creek has a
first thing.
pretty impressive slate of various foods that are animal-based, that are typically animal-based, but these are vegan versions. And, they just have a lot of money behind them, a lot of expertise behind them. Their stuff is fantastic. They're riding a really good wave. And, one of the things about animal agriculture, whether we're talking meat or milk or eggs, is that it's a thoroughly commodified industry where in a typical year, I would say, I've looked back at USDA research and tables over the last 70 years or so, and it's like year in and year out, something like 2% of all beef producers, all chicken producers, all dairy producers, all egg producers, year in and year out, something like 2% go out of business. And so it's just this constant game of attrition within animal agriculture that's been going on for the better part of a century. And these at the same time, the industry trade groups backing these products know how to get into politics, know how to manipulate political pressure and all of that, and they do that at every turn. But I think this time around with Hampton Creek, the egg board has been caught doing some pretty sleazy things, and I would imagine that that's only the beginning, and it's going to be real interesting. I think perhaps the egg industry is going to have to back down on this one because they're going to realize that hey, if this ever goes to litigation, there's just a tremendous amount of highly embarrassing stuff that has gone on. I mean, these are some pretty wretched people.
So if anybody listening wants to, you said obviously vegan.com, which you run, or is interested in your books, where could they find out all that information?
I don't know. I also have Erik Marcus, ErikMarcus.com, and I haven't updated that in a while, but it has links to almost all your stuff that I've put out in the world.
But does it have a link to the Wikipedia page?
That Wikipedia page is the most deeply incomplete, wrong, confused.
Do you even know who put the information on there?
I, as somebody who is committed to ahimsa, I would really love to find out who created that page and kick their ass. But
they obviously knew you were single at the time.
Yeah,
that's on there. I said you enjoy hiking and other things like that.
Yeah, I was like, what is this? A Plenty of Fish profile?
You do enjoy hiking.
I do enjoy hiking, but I mean,
What else did you find out, Ashley? I'm so curious.
Don't.
Nothing too scandalous.
I have to tell you, Eric, You are my most exciting interviewee that I've had since I started this podcast.
That's fantastic. How many interviewees have you had? I'm really excited to hear that.
Does Ashley count as one?
No, she wouldn't count, actually.
No.
I'm a co-host.
Okay, so I would be
So
your
what is
first.
the number that's under 1? Is it like point something?
Well, 0 and then -1, I
Are we
guess.
talking integers?
Yeah. Best interview we've ever had.
Well, what if I just can foresee the future? And I know that
From here on out.
From this point forward, I might as well never interview anyone again.
Okay, well, thank you, Eric, for coming on our podcast and being our first interview.
Oh, it was the best. Thank you.
Yeah.
So this concludes our second episode. If you like it, we would love to have any feedback that you might have to share with us on the episode. If you listen to it on YouTube, then you can leave a comment. And if you listen on iTunes, then you can rate it and leave us a review. Next month, we'll be interviewing the founder and stylist of Vava Vroom Hair Salon, which, in case you don't already know, is the San Francisco Bay Area's only vegan hair salon. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. And Ashley, if listeners want to find you on the World Wide Web, where should they look?
Well, you can find all of my different social media names and all of that at theveganadventure.com. On the right, there's all the little buttons for Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Blog Lovin' and all that. So you go there, you can find it all. And we also have, I don't know if we said this last time, but we have an Instagram for the podcast. So it's just at Dolls and Doughnuts. And you can follow us on Instagram, and we'll post pictures as we're recording and other things about the podcast. So you should follow us there too.
Follow us.
Robin, how about you?
And I have vegandollhouse.com, which is where you can find all my Japan adventures. And I'm also Vegan Dollhouse on Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, and Catch.
So thanks for listening, and we would love it if you would subscribe and leave us some feedback. So next week, if you're lucky, maybe you'll get yours read. Who knows?
Dolls and donuts, dolls and donuts.